Hello and welcome back to the Reddit League show. This week we're in week 5 and we have the results for Virginia. And for this show, I am joined by MTheBassman. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing fine. You?
Doing good as well. Nice to have you back for, I think it's probably, have you been on for every single season?
Yes, I have, as a matter of fact.
All right, so your 5th appearance here, so you should have plenty of
Think so.
experience. And we'll get right into it with the standings for Reddit League next from last week, and kind of more of the usual, I would say. G Papa, after a terrible performance last week, where he just finished second in the division, back with the best score of this week, almost a perfect score for Virginia. Obviously, I'm assuming slightly helped by the fact that he is American. But yeah, great score from him. Sekator, also pretty great. And Boris coming in third again. Unfortunately, quite a few players who did not play their seed this week. But still, we do have 10 people who've played all the seeds so far. Yeah, what do you think generally about the players in this division and their performances so far?
Well, like if you're looking at the total scores, definitely G-Papa and Sikata are jumping out to me with both scores over 10,000, while the other person below that have like way lower scores in general. With well, yeah, shout out to Boris who has done very well so far. So we could maybe see him jump up the table, but yeah, in general, I'm surprised Sikata is in next because I've seen a few streams of his on French league and cups, and he's a very good player. But yeah, so yeah, not surprising that he's maybe also second in this. Um, and yeah, it also doesn't help that you don't get punished in this league for not playing, so that maybe you will see some players losing motivation over the season, which does that have any consequences for the next seasons or?
No, it does not have any direct impact for future seasons because, well, mostly just, you're not actually impacting anyone by not playing other than yourself. And, well, I mean, if you lose motivation to play, you're not going to get promoted into Division 5. But there is
Yeah, like
no, yeah,
sorry, you're not gonna get a better total score either if you're not gonna play, so you won't
yeah.
be in those top 5 spots either. So makes
Uh,
sense, yeah.
yeah, I do think we have a pretty good general estimation on the quality of these players because we have Bombadil and Clemens here now who have previously been in Division 5 for Reddit League. So I think they're a pretty good benchmark on who of these players would be, at what level if they do make it to the actual divisions. So you could say maybe G Papa and Sekateur might be of maybe Division 4, Division 3 quality, and people around like Glumsmile, Boris might be around Division 5 quality, and further down, just players who wouldn't quite be ready yet for those Division 5 games.
Yeah, the way I see it, I think the first top 3 or 5 qualified. You said
Mm,
one of those other shows, which depends on who will uh, like depending on something. I don't remember what, but I think definitely the top 6 are the ones to look out for
yeah,
in league.
it's most likely gonna be the top 3. Actually, the main factor, it usually depends on what I had it depend on last season, is kind of a combination of how many people actually play Reddit League next seriously. Like if it's gonna be 4 people, I can't promote all 4 of them. If 15 people all play every single week, there might be reason in giving like a promotion spot to 5 or 6 people. The other factor is that there's only so many spots that might open up in Division 5. So if there's only 4 spots opening up, I can't promote 5 people into it. And I think we have now like 5 relegation spots in Division 5. So that's, I think, the most I can do for Reddit League next. There's going to be very likely like 2 more dropouts, but those kind of spots would then go, to preseason players next season.
Okay. Yeah, well, either way, I think this is a good league to have to see if the players who didn't quite make it are motivated enough to play every week. uh, and try and get good scores at it. So yeah, excited to see if Sikata and G Papa can keep it up.
Yep. All right, then let's move over to Division 5B and their results from this week. And we had a fairly easy seed for Division 5, and we have not our first, but our second perfect score of the season for Division 5B with Penguin, with a pretty great game.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised with how Penguin's been doing. I think last season he was not super good, but he got some good results. And yeah, 25K definitely very impressive. In terms of the other scores, Mr. Swiss now doing well as expected. Balina still kicking ass. Although it's a bit weird because you see some scores that are like quite good over 24 something, but others where it drops down quite a bit. So that might have to do with practice a bit as well, I think.
Yeah, could certainly be the case. I think Virginia is generally, because it is relatively small and has like very let's say very few discernible features in terms of landscape and stuff like that. So I think it is a place where if you don't know exactly where you are, you probably don't know where you are at all. Um, so I think it's quite likely that a few of those lower scores are pretty much just one round with close to 0 points, rather than losing points here and there.
It will also depend on which way you go. Like I don't quite remember the Division 5 seed, but I've had one seed where it probably really depended on where which direction you went at the start. I think it was Division 3, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, Soundbite, I think very happy with that win, keeping him a bit away from those relegation spots. And Cookers, I don't remember how they've been doing this division, but yeah, maybe a bit happy with that yellow card, considering uh, could have lost to other players in this division.
Yeah, unfortunately, there the yellow card for Lillette, who had only one win so far in the season, definitely struggling with keeping up. Kuka's definitely gonna take that win. I think with a decent score. I think it would have not quite been enough for a bonus point if he had lost. I think it's the seventh best score of the division, so we'll be glad for that. It is his first win of the season. A bit of a cheap win against the yellow card, but a win nonetheless. It's 3 points.
Win is
Uh,
a win, as I always
yep.
say.
So let's take a look at the table there, and we do see a pretty evenly spread out table. I think there, Mr. Swiss Snow and Palena both with 5 wins out of 5 games on 15 points. And behind that, a little bit of a gap to Danny Blondes on 12, Penguin 11, and then, just in these smaller steps down to the bottom of the table, all still fairly close together.
Yeah, these like Mr. Swiss Snow and Danny Blondes were the ones I was expecting to be up there. Yeah, I kind of feel bad for Danny. He's like been in Division 5 forever, and here he hasn't been doing badly. Like I think the two losses he had were very close, and he still got quite some bonus points for that. So which helps. But yeah, I just hope he can still make it. But yeah, if Mr. Swiss and Palina are going to keep having such a good season, then you might have to settle with playoff spot again. But yeah, definitely surprised about Penguin. As I said, had a very solid season so far. I wasn't expecting to be in promotion spots, but definitely proved me wrong. And yeah, in the relegation zone, definitely everything's still possible. I think in terms of skill level, these players are not too far, uh, like too distant from each other. So yeah, that's going to be exciting to see how that will play out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's some interesting situations there. I mean, as you said, Danny Blondes does have pretty much the same total score, let's just say, as Mr. Swiss Snow. The two are kind of running away in that category. A little bit unfortunate maybe in matchups. Did gain basically bonus points in every week that he lost. So definitely still, a very good candidate for maybe getting a second place if either Mr. Swiss Snow or Polena start dropping points here or there. And yeah, interestingly, looking at the total scores, kind of seems like Cougars and Cephalin have been a bit unlucky so far this season as well. Much closer to Anonono and Corgi in 6th and 7th than they are to Lajej and Trebleha in 8th and 9th. So yeah, very, very interesting last 6 weeks we might have in this division, where I think, Lolette probably not going to be leaving that relegation zone. I think they were also one of the people who, I think the only person really in any of the main 5 divisions. There've been a couple of people like that in Reddit League Next who weren't actually taking like their time playing these seeds, but had like just guesses way before the end of the timer. So yeah, probably they might not be getting out of those relegation spots, but beyond that, still a lot to play for. And we'll look at their fixtures for next week. And we do have some very interesting matchups there. Penguin and Mr. Swiss Snow, especially 4th against 1st, right there at the top of the table.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at that game as well. I mean, considering how Swiss now has been doing, I wouldn't be surprised if he will just keep going and win this, and push Penguin back a bit more into mid-table. Yeah, I think Danny Blance will be happy with his relatively easy game. Hopefully, just keep up with Polina and Mr. Swiss now to keep yourself in the top 3. Also think Polina, the soundbite will be relatively interesting because the soundbite has had a decent season so far. And like on a map like Lithuania, you can always have room for surprises. So and yeah, a pretty good, pretty exciting relegation battle there between Lolette and Cephalin. But yeah, considering what you said about how Lolette's been playing, that might be in the favor of Cephalin, I would say. Yeah, definitely a few exciting matchups coming up, which could decide maybe the fate of quite a few players.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well in Pelena's performance in Lithuania, because Lithuania is kind of a map where we haven't really had anything similar to it yet. In terms of size, it's maybe slightly similar to Virginia, but obviously, no English. So no help there for Palena in that sense. And, maybe similar to Bhutan as well in size, but obviously that has a whole lot of, you're not going to play Lithuania anywhere close to how you would play Bhutan. So definitely looking forward to see that against Soundbite, who we know is probably going to put up a solid score, nothing groundbreaking usually, but might be getting 17, 18k relatively safely. And yeah, it's just a very interesting game, and it's the kind of games that Polena has been winning so far. But may need to continue winning as well if they want to remain in one of those top 2 spots.
Yeah, definitely. I think that will be interesting to see because you saw at the total score, Polina was a bit behind Danny and Mr. Swiss Snow. So they got the results, but like Lithuania is a good test indeed to see how if they can actually put up a very good score and you know outplay the Soundbite, who, like you said, usually puts up a decent score. So yeah.
Yeah. French derby as well, Lajej Anonono, and kind of the Austrian-German rivalry with Corgi and Trebleha. Also going to be fun matches to look out for. But let's move on to Division 5A and their results. And kind of in a similar fashion, quite a few very high scores there. We've got 5 players over 24k, and kind of the best matchup there, Keith with almost a perfect score. And their first, well, unfortunately not their first win. I forgot because, well, Clemu was close enough to make a draw out of it. So that's quite an unfortunate situation after 4 losses for Keith. Finally, a home country, great performance, and then Clemu ruins it for him.
Yeah, Klemu is definitely one of the better players in this division, I'd say. So quite unlucky in that sense. And yeah, very impressed with that score from Keith. Like, it's always a gamble to, uh, to estimate how much of an American advantage an American player would have, considering you don't always know where in America they're from or where they lived. So maybe Keith lives somewhere in the eastern part of the US to make him have such a good score. But yeah, that's always a bit of the bad luck with Reddit League that you can put up an amazing score, the best score of the division even, but still have to face an incredibly good player and come out, well, not empty-handed, but could have gone more. But yeah, otherwise I've noticed a lot more discrepancy in this division where some people got close to 24K. Like Jami, for example, also did really well. Uh, very surprised by that. Jack still quietly going along as well, with not the best score, but just doing what he needs to do and get more points. Um, but yeah, again, I don't remember the Division 5 seed, but maybe people like Jordi and Schrossel, I don't know how to pronounce that,
Mm.
um, went the wrong ways or just didn't quite find the clues they needed to pinpoint. So yeah, nice win for Biquet, who I think had was in a bit of a slump the last two games. So that'll keep them a bit in that lower that upper half of the table.
Yeah, so let's look at that table. You mentioned Biquet's kind of, to me, is the sort of player who very inconsistent, I feel like, can show up with some insane scores here or there, but also, really drop the ball on some of them. So he's currently in fifth place. But yeah, here as well, everything, at least in, the upper part, first to eighth, very close together, just 4 points apart. And then we have quite large gaps further down from Picatost in 8th to Paranoid Android in 9th. There's 4 points, and then another 3 points from Damir in 10th to Keith in 11th.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely see some sort of split now between the players who can still, dream of one of those top three spots, and others who probably will mostly have to look down. But there's still it's 12 players, so there's still 6 weeks left. So I guess anything can still happen. Yeah, this might these couple of few weeks will be very important for a lot of players. Like I can see the two Spanish players in the mid-table either keep it up and go along, or they could be dragged down to relegation if they don't look out well. But yeah, incredibly tight in the top three. Definitely. So Jack, Mr. Fish, who are in my opinion definitely one of the better players, still have to look out to not get overtaken by one of the players below them because it's so close to the table.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at who they will be playing against next week. And we certainly have some very interesting matchups here. I mean, obviously, Clemu against Biquet, fourth against fifth. After both of them just had pretty good performances, Clemu with that unfortunate draw and Biquet coming off of a win could be very exciting. But also Strossel against Keith, 11th against 12th. A very important matchup for both of them without a win as well. So unless, we get some unlucky draws again, one of them will pick up their first win this week. And, they're both going to need the points. So, best of luck to the two of them.
Yeah, I don't think it will be likely to see a lot of draws in Lithuania because it's not that kind of country where every location will be very easy to find unless you get a very lucky seed. But yeah, I'm also interested in Mr. Fish Jami because I don't know what it is, but Jami is that kind of player that just can't show up out of nowhere. So definitely a bit of a wild card factor to him. So Mr. Fish still has to look out despite like their differences in the table position. And otherwise, yeah, I could see Paranoid Android at Flux it'd be close-ish, although I would maybe give the slight favor to Apple Oxid.
Yeah, it could definitely be a close matchup there too. And yeah, I agree with what you said about Damir. As we saw in Virginia with a great score, but it was his first win of the season so far. So very up and down player, can definitely show up in Lithuania. So it's certainly not a guaranteed win for Mr. Fish at all. And let's move on to Division 4B and their results. And again, some interesting performances there. Division 4 probably, well, not only probably, it definitely was the easiest seed. Just looking at the scores tells the whole story there. No perfect scores, unfortunately, in Division 4B. Everyone dropping a few points here and there in the pinpointing stages. Which, most of them will be quite annoyed about. But yeah, the only matchup that's not a draw there, Seppo picking up 3 points again against Dromi with essentially the, ninth best score against the 10th best score.
Yeah, this was definitely very easy to see. Like I've played it myself. I wasn't very good at pinpointing, but I don't really care a lot about pinpointing in in my practice sheets. I just want to see if I can like find it okay. But anyway, yeah, definitely an easy seed, and Seppo will definitely be happy with that win, because this season he also just wants to stay up, I reckon. And yeah, for a lot of these players, a draw is probably not what they wanted to wish for. But yeah, with a lot of players in this division have enough quality to figure out whether it was relatively urban, and the seats the rounds that weren't urban still had some clues for you to help you pinpoint where I'll be at. Maybe some very nice points for Lab and Grab, who would definitely more so want to win, but definitely happy with 2 points. I'm not sure if that would be enough for an extra bonus point for the top five. Yeah, not much to say about it. Just a lot of draws and an easy seed.
Yeah, it was enough for a Laban grab there for an extra point with the third best score equal to Jean Harrison. Uh, One person who definitely was very happy about the draw, at least, although maybe not as happy about not getting that extra bonus point, is Pastetli. As we look at the table, though, he does keep his lead, although it does shrink a bit. Sola Sensei definitely won't be happy about this seed in particular, because just going off of the other seeds, he played quite easily the best player in Virginia out of any division. So for him to come into this seed and it being such an easy one, and then, having a very difficult to pinpoint round as well, where he couldn't even get the perfect score out of it, that's gotta be annoying. I think overall in the Division 5 seed, I think there was only, I think, 3 players who played the seed that managed to get the perfect score. One player in Division 4A, I know myself, and I think there was one more person who did. But yeah, looking at the table, still very, very close, especially at the top. I think we've kind of had this opinion since a few weeks now, but the top 5 that we have here are the people who will be fighting for those promotion spots. I think it's unlikely anyone else will have a say in that, really. And then at the bottom, we have a relatively close fight, against relegation as well, with pretty varying, total scores there.
Yeah. I first wanted to say I forgot to tell her that the results that the reason there were like almost perfect scores in this was because of one round where it was on an interstate highway where you had clues to pinpoint, but no guarantee to get very close. So I think a lot of people there dropped points. But yeah, about this table, yeah, you can definitely see a bit of discrepancy between the top five and the bottom five. Well, the discrepancy might not be the best word, but I definitely see the top five battle for promotion here. Well, I think people like Jun Harrison and Seppo definitely have to be more careful that they're not getting dragged back into that relegation spot. Yeah. Um, Still not over for Laban and Dromi, but they definitely need to pick up the points if they don't want to, uh, have no chance at all anymore in a few weeks. Yeah, definitely very unpredictable. I couldn't dare to tell you who will be the top three at the end of this table. So yeah, very excited to see how this will turn out.
Yeah, and we have some very exciting matchups this week too. as we see Solar Sensei against Ollie. That's one matchup within those top five. And we have Pastetli against Sheldon, which is another one. And then we have all of the relegation candidates pretty much fighting off against each other. Laban, after coming off of those 2 points against Mick Pietz, and Dromi after the relatively disappointing performance in Virginia against Jean Harrison. Uh, so a lot of very interesting matchups there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the only game that you could predict relatively well is maybe Jake Lyons, Seppo. But again, Lithuania is that kind of country where I could maybe see Seppo come out of nowhere. He has those weeks where all of a sudden he just forms, and you can always have a bad day in Lithuania. So in that aspect, it could also be interesting. But yeah, two relegation crackers and two promotion crackers. So that's definitely going to be something to look out for. I definitely wouldn't know uh, who I would pick for those matches because, well, yeah, I should maybe talk a bit more about Lithuania, like after, like at the end of this cast, but
Mm.
it's definitely gonna be hard to say who would come out on top of that.
Yeah, and on the topic of Seppo, I will never forget how back in season one, a long, long time ago at this point, I was, having a very rough season, which in the end ended with like 3 wins out of 9 games or something like that in the relegation zone of Division 4 or something. Um, no, it was Division 3, but either way. Uh, and we came to Estonia, a country, fairly similar to Lithuania in a way. And I had a great time in Estonia, getting fantastic scores in the other 3 division seeds. I think I was top 3 in all of them. And then I played my seed and did really well. But I was up against Seppo, who got.
Oh boy. So you didn't have very good times in the Baltics in Reddit League so
Well,
far.
I had a great time. I just didn't get any points for it.
Yeah,
um,
because bonus points also weren't a thing in that
yes.
season.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that stinks.
yeah, definitely never underestimate Seppo on any map. He's not always going to show up, but if he shows up, the opponent's in danger. And we know Jake, not the most not the biggest fan of pinpointing. And if we do get a seed in Lithuania that might require some of that, there's definitely a chance there for Seppo. All right, then let us move over to Division 4A. And there we do. Oh, that was the other person who 25k. We got our regular 125k of the season for Wakerlock, um, who got his perfect score alongside Carp there, who also managed to pinpoint all of the rounds here.
Yeah, Wakelok has got to be one of the weirdest players in Geoguessr for me when it comes to like results. He sometimes has weeks where just doesn't really put up a great score and usually loses. But there's like 2 or 3 weeks in every Reddit League season where they just decide to blow it out of the water, and yeah, very impressive. But also by Carp, of course, who at this point I would just call a great pinpointer, and yeah, we'll be very happy with that bonus point considering that his opponent Seb Kierst is just 5 points away from that. But yeah, again, a lot of close scores here. Lunacy, I've watched his video where he recorded Virginia, and he had four perfect scores up until the last round. So very, very painful loss there for him. Well, also congrats to Headache Me, of course, because he also put up a great score himself. Zotomo, yeah, yeah, not bad, but not enough, unfortunately. Against Sander, who's good player on his own, of course.
Yeah, especially unfortunate there for Lunacy, who had plenty of time, but just he told me he ran into just enough confirming clues, which is unfortunate because if you look at the right location and where he put his pin at the end, like if you just take another couple seconds to think about it, or like even just look at the road orientation, stuff like that, it's very obviously not the right place, but in the heat of the moment, on for a perfect game, just you know, slightly got it
Pressure
wrong.
can
And
really get to you.
just about, and got it wrong enough that he'll end up 103 points behind Heading Me as well, and doesn't even get a draw out of it. So that
Yeah,
just makes it even more miserable.
yeah.
Um,
That's the thing with like if you're on a perfect game and you're on the last round, you start feeling that pressure. Like, oh god,
yeah,
what if I screw this up? This could make or break a season. So the nerves can really get to you at that point. But yeah,
yeah, it can sometimes be better to go into the last round with like you already having like lost 1 or 2 points, so where okay, it doesn't matter for a perfect game, just get the last one right and at least a draw out of it. It takes a lot of pressure off. But obviously, you then don't get the opportunity of having a perfect score. So, you know. But yeah, on the topic of Wakelock as well, I do think he has gotten quite a bit better just in general. So, some of his lowest lows aren't quite there anymore. He's improved on those. And, if he still comes up with those performances like this week every now and then he's at least, as we take a look over at the table, he's solidly mid table, which looking at how strong a lot of the players in this division are is, not something you would have necessarily expected at the start of the season.
yeah. This has been an incredible season so far in this division. Like the mid-table spans basically from third to ninth, so no one knows what will happen. Yeah, Xander, very impressed by him promoting from Division 5 and also just keeping up that form. Hexalt, who's also pushed for promotion basically every season since he's been here. Yeah, not surprised with the people in top there, but yeah, the lower end of Division 4 definitely got stronger with Wikelok. Seems to be improving Heading Me. Always a bit of a wild card to me, but he definitely is someone to also look out for. Yeah, not much to say about that about this right now. So the next couple of weeks will probably be crucial to see who will head to which direction in the table.
Yeah, and Danny J unfortunately is still without a point. Seems pretty set on that 10th place. Just maybe Division 4 a bit too tall of a task for him. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see not only just for the promotion fight, but two people out of those, nine will have to go into the relegation playoff match as well, which could be a very interesting one too. Looking at next week, again, some great matchups here. We have Hexal against Xander right at the top, the two of them against each other. And, Carp Heading Me, also pretty interesting game.
Yeah, basically all of these games will definitely decide a lot for the rest of the season with Hexall and Xander, while just a direct promotion spot essentially. Corp and Heading Me will just battle for who gets to stay closer to that to those promotion spots. Harry Gemini, Sotomo, maybe just deciding who might be more likely to get into relegation. So yeah, very excited to look at these matchups. Yeah, considering that Danny hasn't been doing great this season so far, so I'm curious might be confident going into this game.
Yeah, so let's move over to Division 3 and their results. And yeah, some pretty, you know, far apart scores, I guess, in a way. Not the easiest of seeds, all the way from 13,000 points for Tante to 24k for Flipster, and almost a perfect score. Well, almost a 25k for Pastek. I'm pretty sure it wasn't just, one round where he dropped points, but fairly close on all of them. And yeah, the season's continuously not getting any better for Freckles. First time he's actually gone and put up a good score this season. Good enough for a bonus point, but then, well, he goes up against that.
Yeah, it's very weird to see this. I think this was definitely a seed where it just decided a lot which way you went because I actually 25k to seed with relative ease, so I was pretty surprised to see these scores. But I apparently just went the right way every time. And I think that's why a lot of these scores seem a bit all over the place. So call it luck, call it skill, I don't know, but definitely seed where I think maybe luck played a bit more of a role. Yeah, the Freckles maybe just not putting in a lot of time anymore. But yeah, very impressed with Pastek's score, who has been picking up the pace a bit this season, I've noticed. Flipster, yeah, still just doing solid after return from that road trip and keeping himself in the promotion spots. Uh, yeah, the usual suspects won this week, in my opinion. Pretty close game by Steelers Nick and Hugo Alvara as well. Pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, so looking at the table there, fortunate for Steel this Nick. Definitely not one of the better scores this week, but he stays with a clean record. 5 out of 5 for him, as well as Diesel, who are kind of, just feeling comfortable in those top two spots at the moment. 4 points to closed in third. And at the bottom, Freckles has his first point of the season, but he's still got quite a big task ahead of him if he wants to climb out of those relegation spots.
Yeah, super. It's very sad to see the Freckles at the bottom because he's always been challenging for those promotion spot the last few seasons. But then again, the last few seasons, Reddit League definitely got a lot more competitive with players like Diesel and Flipster joining the pack. Like Nikiro and Antoine, also players who can put up a good performance if they want to. And yeah, honestly expected a bit more from Geofogger at this point. But yeah, looking at the points, it's definitely Diesels and Steelers Knicks places to lose, considering they have quite a substantial lead. Very good performances too, and Flipster I'm definitely expecting to stay in there too with the quality he has, and with the two losses were just because well his internet was crap apparently.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the battle for relegation will definitely be very interesting with still nothing lost. Like if you look at Hugo having 6 points, Nakira 6 points, Antoine 7, Paulinho 8. The next few weeks for them will also be very crucial.
Yeah, and on the point of Geofogger, I mean, if you look at their total scores, like there's not any really big gaps in there. I mean, you do have about 13k between like Diesel and Tante, but it does seem like quite a few of the weeks have been decided by relatively small gaps. So, if you just lose a couple 100 points more than your opponent, you can quite quickly end up with, quite a few losses there. But let's look at their matchups for not next season, next week. Can't see that far into the future, unfortunately. But yeah, if there's any week for Freckles, it might be this one where he's got a pretty good chance at finally getting off to his first win. Tante not been having the best season so far, with the second lowest total score. So yeah, might as well start now. I think this is probably not exactly his last chance, but probably his best chance to start on making his way out of there.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of these games are a bit hard to predict for me. I think maybe Flipster Hugo will be quite in favor of Flipster and maybe Diesel close, but that also um, could go either way, really. I think Fogger could surprise against Steelers Nick, definitely, and yeah, very, very close games in general. I don't really know what to say otherwise about them other than that these margins will also maybe be very small with who gets a result and who doesn't in these matchups.
Yeah, certainly possible. Two derbies there. Pastek against Nakru, I think, is also going to be a very interesting match. I think the two of them have
Yeah.
known each other for a long time, so those are always fun games to look forward to and to play. So we'll see how they do as we move on to Division Two and their results. And unfortunately, they're a yellow card for Cameron, Real Clyde, and our first red card of the season, unfortunately, for Aston, who afterwards told me that he was on like a work trip for 3 weeks or something and just completely forgot to play, which is unfortunate, but not an excuse. Also, he said it's not an excuse, just he explained himself. So unfortunately, Division 2 down to 11 players. I feel like I can't remember the last time we had like all 12 players finish a season in Division 2. But yeah, I mean, it's going to help those players who might be struggling a bit and, would be fighting against relegation.
I think it was a season where we promoted to Division 1 where nobody got a red card, I believe. Um, I think that's season 4. Not sure. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure why the real Clyde didn't play. I don't remember him getting a yellow card before. And Armand will be happy with that, who got a decent score. I think still one of the better in the division. And Wordog just keeps on going. He always had a bit of reputation where he showed up a lot for the world maps and like in more specific maps like Virginia, a bit inconsistent, but definitely has been improving that part of this game and just keeps on going with Max. Unfortunately, just not a season at this point. And yeah, very close game between Renata and Oitboka, who are both bound for promotion. That's a very important win for Renata, I think, here. And otherwise, yeah, Samo also keeps playing well. Yeah, a bit of the usual suspects winning this week, I think.
Yeah, Verdog just keeps doing Verdog things. Um, yeah, a little bit fortunate for Boca there, and unfortunate at the same time. Just a little too far away from getting a draw, but at least I think the fifth best score or something like that. So
Oh
just
yeah, and
or sixth, so just enough for a bonus point there for him.
yeah, and of course, very nice for Guelo Wizard to get that win. Maybe not the way he wanted to, but like I said, a win is a win. This
Yep,
will be very good for him.
a win is certainly a win. And looking at the table, it is a win that brings him out of the relegation zone, as he now sits in seventh with 6 points after 2 wins in a row. So certainly very nice for him. As we kind of have a very split division here, with the top six all fairly close together still, and then there's quite a big gap to everyone who will be probably fighting against relegation there, from Guelo down to the real Clyde.
Yeah, this is just such a weird table to me because every one of these players are just really good. You know, with the real Clyde, always been doing very solidly in the seasons, but this time just not doing as well. Um, and Max as well. We know what he's capable of, but yeah, sometimes it just needs to go your way. With this quality of players in this division, it's just sometimes hard to get it going, get your confidence up if you keep losing. So it'll be very tough to see some of these have to battle for relegation. While I consider all of these players just really good. Yeah, promotion battle will be super exciting here. With like, imagine if Armand would have played his first game, uh, and he might have even been in first. So it's so hard to predict, but that also makes it exciting, of course. With Stock and Samo both very surprising as newcomers, already just battling for the top spots in here.
Yeah, definitely. I think also the red card for Aston had an impact there. I can't quite remember. I think it might have been Stock who he had beaten before. So with that result voided, that's an extra 3 points going the other way there, which obviously helps in the table as well. All right, then their matchups for next week. Some interesting matchups there again. Max against WTF, kind of a relegation fight in there. Real Clyde, I mean, as long as he can play a seed, he'll have a free win this week. And even apart from that, Renata against Samo, a very interesting game as well as Verdok against Stock, both pretty important games for the promotion fight.
Yeah, definitely. Clyde will be very happy with that free win as long as he just doesn't forget to play. And yeah, just the matchup you named are, of course, I agree with that. Max and WTF will be fun to see because both are good enough. But Both are lacking confidence at this moment with them not doing very well. So really want to see how that happens. I would favor Oman against Whale Wizard. I mean, Oman is just so solid. Um, I, I wouldn't give Quail Wizard a lot of chance, but with Lithuania, you never know. And yeah, stock Borodok, like it's very hard to see how that game will go. I would give the slight favor to Borodok considering his form, but yeah, like I said, in a map like Lithuania will be hard to determine. And yeah, a little Slavic derby there with Sam against Renata. That could also throw in a lot of surprising results in the table.
Yeah, so let's move on to our last division, to Division 1 and the results. And, well, I mean, it's safe to say you had a better time than me in Virginia, didn't you?
I mean, I can't say I had a really good time in the first 3 rounds because, well, I think you agreed this was probably the worst seed.
Oh, easily.
The first 3 rounds were super rural, barely any things to find. I think I found a phone code or an area code. I mean, in 2 of the 3 rounds, which kind of helped with hedging and guessing. But yeah, it was a matter of who had the better guesses in those 3 rounds because the last two were, in my opinion, very much more doable. And yeah, obviously very happy with my win. Quite needed that, and just just shows my inconsistency in Reddit League, where like I said this in the last comments too, but when I promoted to Division One, I had a result in all uneven weeks. Lost in all even weeks, so I'm afraid to see what's gonna come in next week. But anyway, yeah, Barry keeping up his great form by winning against Pastel, who's been having a great season himself. Uh, yeah, you had a really bad time there, and I'm guessing Pluki will be happy with that, considering he had the second worst score in the division. Mr. Blue, very impressive win against Mason. Don't know where in the US Mason is from, but that was definitely maybe an unexpected result. And Toto Radio, wasn't that the best season? Put up a very, very good score, the highest of of the division. So he'll definitely take that against Nimriv, who you're also not guaranteed to win against.
Yeah, and you said the last 2 rounds were fairly easy. I didn't even find anything in round 4 until, like, I think with 40 seconds left, I found the sign for the US Highway 60. That was the road we were on, but that was literally all I found in round 4.
Oh yeah, I went. I guess I went the right way then.
Yep.
Like in a lot of seats, that can also decide a lot. So yeah,
Yeah, to be honest though, I was also thoroughly like underprepared because the other division seats were also incredibly easy. I think I 25k'd both the Division 4 and the Division 5 seed, and I dropped like a couple points, I think, on two of the others, and I think I only had trouble with, like, slight trouble with the Division 2 seed, I think, if I remember correctly. But so far, well, I mean, I had no problems at all with 4 of the 5 seeds. So how much am I really gonna need to practice for this? And then we got that seed, and the answer was I would have needed to practice more. Um, so yeah, that especially annoying because this is another one of those scenarios where, like, if I was going up against Toto Radio or Mr. Blue there, then it's like, well, I mean, 20k probably wasn't gonna reach that. Maybe got unlucky, too unlucky in some of the rounds with where I went. But with Pluki, it's just literally like I saw a bus, I think, in round 3 or so that mentioned a county, and if I had learned the counties, I would have won that game. So small things like that are just, really annoying.
I don't
But
know if anyone learned the counties. That was just I looked at them for like a few seconds. I was like, yeah, no, sorry, I'm not gonna learn that.
Solar Sensei
But,
probably knows them by heart. But
yeah, but
yeah,
I can understand it. It just yeah, this is just very luck based, such a seed. So it's never nice when it goes your way, and when you see that the one you played against also had a bad score. So you always have that lingering feeling of like, oh my god, it could have been.
yep.
No, very unfortunate.
Yeah, so let's look at the table, and in all of its unfortunate glory, with me in last, and pretty much a do or die match next week that we'll look at shortly. But everything's still fairly close together. You know, I mean, if just Nimrith had 1 point more or Shumi, then we'd have like a perfect, with everyone being 1 point from everyone else. But yeah, it's still fairly close. We have 4 more weeks to play, so I mean, technically, I could still make it to the to the playoff spots. I'm not going to, but technically, I could.
Yeah, Nimrith ruining the consistency here of not having 7 as his points amount, and it would have been a very nice 1 point. How do you say that?
I was trying to come up with a word as well. I couldn't either.
Nice ordering, whatever. But yeah, I'm obviously very happy to be a bit more in the mid-table this time. Considering I was basically fighting for relegation last season. But yeah, anything can still happen. Like Nimrith, I would have expected to do a bit better. Um, but with how close this division's been, it's honestly going to be very unpredictable to see. Biggest surprise is probably still Barry Fishy Bear, who just promoted and keeps kicking ass. If I didn't, I'm very surprised to have beaten him, considering that the rest of the results he just didn't do very well. And yeah, Mr. Blue, very nice recovery after a rough start. And yeah, I think the relegation battle will probably be, honestly, probably from my my spot right now to 10th, that everyone could still be in danger for relegation. So anything can still happen, really. Every player in this division has the quality to get a decent run of form and get themselves out of that relegation zone. So
Yeah, so let's look at the matchups for next week. And yeah, kind of as always, we have some interesting matchups there. But the one that really stands out in importance there is, as I mentioned before, my game against Totoradio, 9th against 10th. I really need a good result here.
yeah, yeah, I think if you would lose this one, then you're definitely going to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, you probably realize that yourself, but yeah, definitely do or die. I'm also It's also going to be very hard against Mason, who in my opinion has been very consistent. Hasn't always gotten the results against him, but has definitely always put up a decent score uh, to keep up with the pack. I'm also It's also going to be interesting to see Nimrith Barry, because I think Nimrith definitely has the quality to make it very hard for Barry in a map like Lithuania. Yeah, Mr. Blue Bastel going to be a very important match to see who is going to cement themselves a bit more into that promotion in that top 4. But definitely a lot to look out for. I think Fluky Shumi might be the most in favor to one, which in my opinion is Fluky. As on these kind of maps, I would expect Shumi maybe not to do too well. And yeah,
Yeah,
considering he's just super consistent and won't often uh, put up a bad score, I don't really see Shumi having a big chance. Who knows? We'll see.
yeah. Shumi is a weird one. I don't understand how he works. But
Same.
I like, you could tell me he's gonna 25k, and you could tell me he's gonna get 7k, and I would believe either one. So
Yeah.
we'll see what we get out of him next week. But yeah, let's talk about our last thing for this week, which is, as always, the map. And yeah, we've got Lithuania, and I'll give you, the start. What do you think about this?
Um, yeah, I mean, the Baltic countries always get a bit lumped within each other because they both kind of have the same vibe, flat, not a lot of clues, not very distinctive landscapes. So yeah, but yeah, Lithuania itself, I noticed that the most annoying thing about Lithuania is that they love to blur all their signs, which the other Baltic countries
Mm,
don't have. But just to keep it to Lithuania, um, it's gonna be very seed dependent for the divisions because in practice, I've had a few seats where you got a lot of cities where usually you will find out which city you're in. It often says somewhere, and the signage isn't bad in cities. But there's also seats where you get like free. You start on 3 dirt roads. It just depends where you're gonna be. So this will also be, I think, a very uh, luck-based map. But I think practice is very important in this because what you can practice in Lithuania is some town names, and like everyone knows Kaunas, Vilnius, Klaipėda, but the middle to like the middle towns will be very good to see them a few times in practice. I remember, oh wait, I've heard of that before. So I think practice is definitely very important in this map to at least get yourself familiar with some town names that you might see more often.
yeah, I certainly agree on that. And it also, I mean, it is kind of the only thing you can really practice. Lithuania does have like slight differences in landscape, but most of them are not gonna be, giving enough information to you that you can really narrow it down to an area. It's more like, okay, I can exclude certain parts now, maybe. Um, and there isn't really anything else. Like, there's not really anything you can learn with the road numbers. I mean, they're slightly ordered, I think, but you don't see them too often. And you also, like, if you see them, you're just going to be able to find them on the map anyway. There's really no point in knowing where they are beforehand. Unless you like see a sign like with 2 seconds to go and you really need to know exactly where it is. um, I do actually think that the Baltic countries all play fairly differently. Whereas I think Estonia plays a lot more like Finland, for example, except maybe less rural. And then Lithuania is very rural. There's a lot of roads through the middle of nowhere there. Um, Also has, I think, a lot less road numbers coming up than Estonia does. And as you mentioned, all of the blurry signs that just make it more annoying. And Latvia is kind of like a mixture between the two of them. But yeah, Lithuania is the kind of country where I'd expect we'll see a lot of pretty decent scores, but I would be surprised unless we get an easy seed if we see any 25Ks.
Oh
Because
yeah, definitely.
I practiced quite a bit. I played like just sort of co-op games of Lithuania with Jake. I think we played about like 10 games or something like that, and we couldn't get a 25K because there's a long straight road or a dirt road in the middle of nowhere that just gives you nothing to pinpoint with. Um, so yeah, definitely going to be impressed by any 25Ks. And at the same time, usually, if you've got 3 minutes, unless you get really unlucky with the direction you're going, you're gonna find a sign that has like a town name on it. So then it just becomes a matter of, do you know that town name and can you find it? And
Map,
obviously,
yeah, map scanning will be very important
yes.
in this one, I think. Also, from a practice seat, I've really liked the look of the bigger towns in Lithuania. So, I definitely want to visit that country one time because I feel like the bigger cities can be very lovely to visit. Just off topic, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel it gives me kind of, I mean, obviously they're a neighboring country, but it gives me kind of a Polish vibe, the bigger cities. Just in terms of like stuff like architecture and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting map, as I said before in when I was talking about Palena. I think quite different to anything we've had so far this season. So just more data basically on some of the newcomers and how they do in specific scenarios on specific maps, which is always fun to see. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this week's Reddit League show. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will see you guys again next time. Bye.
See ya.